Hey there, nation. Welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back on the episode of Hobby Sides. And on this episode, we are showcasing our studio's 3,000 point Warhammer Fantasy High Elves army. Now, the crazy part about this video is that this army is actually the oldest army I have in my collection for our studio, and yet I've never really done a video of showcasing this 3,000 point army ever, which is absolutely kind of crazy because like I've showcased every other army that we had so far, but I've never actually gone back to our original army that I started off the hobby with. So as you can see here it is in all of its glory. Now, I kind of did a video kind of like this, a long time ago, back when Vince Ventrella used to do his topic of the week on his channel. And I did my very first army video. I did a response to that, what your very first army was. I did a short little video about this. So I kind of did a showcase, I just mainly talked about my first army, but I never really went into detail about the design concept behind it, you know, what it's made up of, that kind of thing. So that's the reason why we're doing this video now. So for this hobby side video, we'll be showcasing the 3,000 point House Laenel, the Silvery Host of Calidor. That's the name of this army, and all 3,000 points of it in its modern and its current rendition right now. This is where we're currently running this army for the studio as well. So like as always, we'll talk about each of the units. We'll talk about exactly what they consist of. We'll talk about the design concept and the paint scheme behind it, and then we'll wrap up this video. So that being said, let's get this video on a roll. Alright, so first of all, let's go and talk about exactly what makes up this army. So this army is actually one of the most varied armies of miniatures I have in my collection. A lot of it is made by Games Workshop, but it's actually various generations of miniatures from the various editions of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So let's go on and talk about that real quick. So first of all, let's talk about what makes this unit. First of all, we have a unit of 10 Silverhelm Knights led by Tyrion, the special character. We have 3 Equal Claw Bolt Throwers. We have a unit of 25 Phoenix Guard. A unit of 35 White Lions led by Teclis, the special character. 10 Reaver Knights. A Prince mounted on a dragon. 23 Sea Guard, Lothern Sea Guard with a Battle Standard Bearer. And a Tyrannok Chariot is pretty much what makes up this army, with, you know, magic items and everything else like that also included. This army is called House Laenel, the Silvery Host of Calidor, and the reason why is because Calidor used to be one of the provinces of Ulthuan, which is the old country that the High Elves came from, and that's where most of the dragons come from. So like I said, most of this is made up of various editions of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. When I first bought this army was actually given to me as a gift. Back when I was like in middle school, way back like in the mid-90s, my folks got me a box set of Warhammer Fantasy Battle 4th edition for a Christmas gift. And inside the army, you basically had 2 armies. You had a High Elves, which is this army here, and then one was Goblins, which was led by Grom the Paunch. And originally that unit came with just these spearmen that you see here by themselves, as well as these archers by themselves. So these guys are from the 4th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, for what makes up the bulk of the army. The same thing with the command models. So if you look here, we have like this guy here as a Battle Standard Bearer, as well as this guy with the dragon horns, as well as this guy here with the cloak, the lion cloak that he has going on right here. Those guys were actually the old command models, 4th edition command models. Those guys are made out of pewter, Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Same thing with these leaders here, this guy here on the left and the right, as well as this hornblower. That's also another command model from the 4th edition as well. Same thing with Tyrion, which is the special character here. Now, the rider is actually Tyrion from the 4th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. The steed that he rides on, Milhendir, that is actually from the High Elf Prince kit that you got, that you can make a Battle Standard Bearer or a Mounted Lord. That was made by 8th edition, so that's the mount that the guy rides on, because this one looks much more impressive than the old 4th edition Milhendir did. And there's the Battle Standard Bearer that came with that kit there from 8th edition. And same thing with the Prince riding this dragon from 8th edition as well. These bolt throwers are also from the 4th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and same thing with the Teclis miniature as well as this command group as well. As well as this White Lion. I think I got like 3 more White Lions in here from the 4th edition. Yeah, those 2 White Lions back there, those guys are all from the 4th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So those guys are from the 4th edition. Alright, so those are the 4th edition miniatures. Now I also have a couple of 5th edition miniatures in this army as well. For example, this Tyrannok Chariot back here is from the 5th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Same thing with the Silverhelm Knights that make up this unit. All these Silver Helm Knights are from the 5th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and the same thing with these Reaver Knights. Well, 8 of these Reaver Knights, they're from the 5th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle as well. Now, these two guys here in the center, if you notice, they look a little bit different for Reaver Knights. That's because those guys are actually both Dark Riders from the 4th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle for Dark Elves. I just had 2 of those guys spiraling around, and I decided to make them into Reaver Knights. They're mounted on 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle Elven Chariot horses, Elven steeds, and the spear tips are actually from the skies of that Tyrannot chariot for the 8th edition. I was able to scrounge up with some horses from that edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and I made these riders to make this a full unit of 10. So these Reaver Knights are from the 5th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Now, over here for the White Lions, I have a combination of 4th edition White Lions. I also have some 5th and 6th edition White Lions. And then I got a bunch of these proxy sword-wielding guys. Those guys are actually from an old gaming system. I forgot the name of the game system. It used to exist back in the 90s. It was made by a company called Ral Partha, is the name of the company that used to make that game. And you used to be able to buy a box set of 10 swordsmen, high elf swordsmen with single-handed swords, and then 10 with double-handed swords. Back when I used to run these guys as 2 different units, I used to run as a unit of 15 White Lions, a unit of 20 Sword Masters of Hoeth. But White Lions are a much better unit for 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So I just combined the 2 groups together to make it into a unit of 35 is what I ended up doing. So that's where those guys come from as well. And then, of course, we already talked about the 8th edition miniatures with that rider, that's Battle Center Bear, as well as these horses, as well as the Rider of the Dragon. Now, the Dragon is actually from an old Games Workshop board game called Talisman, is what it's called. It's called the Dragon Lord, Tower of the Dragon Lord. So I have a couple of miniatures I use for Mordheim and for my Empire army with those miniatures. And we bought this box set for this dragon specifically because I think that game was like $30 if I remember correctly when I bought it. It came with a dragon, like 4 special characters, and I was like, that alone is cheaper than the actual Pewter Dragon miniature, so that's why I bought it. And that's why we use it for the army as well. So yeah, that pretty much makes up the different editions of Warhammer Fantasy Battle that's inside of this army. Now then, let's go and talk about color schemes real quick for all these guys. So first of all, if you'll notice, the entire army pretty much is painted in white. And the reason why that was the case is because during the 4th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, when I first got into Warhammer, this was the color that all High Elves wore. They were basically a lot of white, a lot of blue, as well as a lot of red. So as you can see here, most of the fabric and the weapons that these guys are carrying are in white, because that's what the way they were for that one. All right, so that's pretty much the universal color that is spread throughout as well. Now, if you'll notice, there's also a lot of silver because, you know, they wear these kind of like scale mail armor that they kind of wear on all of their armor they're wearing. But if you look really close, let me go ahead and zoom in real quick. If you look really close at the scale mail, there's this little thin rim of color, red in this case for these guys, that form the outside of the scale mail armor. I guess that's supposed to be like represent the fabric that's beneath the scales that they all wear. And so when we first started painting these up, the red border was used to signify units that are in close combat. So these guys here have red because these guys are close combat. These guys also have red as well because they're also close combat as well. And if you add blue, as you can see in this background, the blue represents guys who are missile troops, who fire missile weapons primarily. So like these archers, these charioteers. Let me see if I can show it to you right there. There you go. So there's some blue there. Same thing with the bolt thrower crew. They also have blue as well. Same thing with these Reaver Knights. The Reaver Knights also are rimmed in blue for the most part in their armor. As well as the Silver Helms. The Silver Helms are kind of rimmed up in red because they're close combat as well. Now, I don't know if you've ever painted High Elves before or not, but I can tell you this. That broke me as a painter. I'm not even gonna lie. Ever since I was a little kid, all the way up until I became an adult and started painting really hardcore, that thin rim of color around each of the different chainmail coats, scale mail coats, broke me as a painter. It was the most frustrating thing to paint as a miniature painter when I was younger, especially when I started first doing this. It was a major pain. And then back in the day, I used to rough paint these, and then my dad would do all the detail work back when I was a kid. As you can see, my dad did a really excellent job on these. So that's how it worked for when I was a kid. I would do the base, and those things just be super frustrating. So because of that, if I never paint another High Elf miniature as long as I live, it will be too soon, just because it looks really nice when it's done, but I don't mind telling you, it was a major pain to get that all completed for all the different miniatures as well. So you can see we got that red for the close combat guys. Same thing with the blue for the missile troops as well. And it just looks really, really awesome overall. So as you can see, once again, the color scheme on these guys is really bright and vibrant colors. Like I said, I've been a huge fan of vibrant colors in armies. And this stems all the way back from my first love with Warhammer. Because back during the 4th edition of Warhammer, everybody was very bright and vibrant paint jobs were done for all the miniatures. So you can see here we got these beautiful designs on all these shields that the spearmen carry. Just bright, bold, and beautiful coloring throughout the entire army as well. It just looks absolutely fantastic. That's Teclis, by the way. That's what the old 4th edition of Teclis looks like. This is my very favorite version of Teclis because he just looks boss. Same thing with this version of Tyrion. He just looks amazing as well. Now, of course, you have the new, if you wonder who this guy is a mage that put on horseback. If you notice, he's have a homemade, cobbled together conversion. I took a High Elf Prince arm with a spare Silverhelm leg with a Wood Elf rider of some sort with a book thing that I found, and I just kind of glued that guy together to make this character. But, yeah, that's the Silverhelm Knights. Now, I know we have the new Lumineth Realm Lords, or whatever they're called. Those are the new Age of Sigmar High Elf variants coming out. Those look pretty cool. But like I said, I'm pretty much done painting High Elves. Now, as for this army, I use this army all the time in our battle reports. I think it's such a great army to use. It's very nostalgic for me to use it as well. This is my very first army that I actually had, and the very first army I worked on and fully painted up as well. And this army is about 20 years old. Some of it is like about 20 years old, I think. Some of the parts of it. So yeah, had it with me the entire time, never planning on getting rid of it no matter what. Because when you put as much blood, sweat, and tears in this army as I have, and use it for as many games as I have, there's no way in heck you're going to get rid of it. So yeah, this is the showcase for our 3,000 point High Elf army, House Laenel, the Silvery Host of Kalador. So that's going to do it for this week, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is always appreciated. Always check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to our channel. That's going to do it for this week, guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy, guys.